filter information or understand not necessarily physiology, but what's happening in a body energetically. That's probably a better term for it. They have a different setup of organs. Some of the organs are similar. Heart, they knew about that. They got pericardium, but there's no equivalent of the triple burner in Western medicine. Pericardium is kind of a covering of the heart. They call it actually the heart protector. Each of those organs is associated with an element. And again, looking at the body from heaven and earth, they noticed there were cycles. Right? So you have the yin and the yang, you had day and night, you had winter, summer. They did also notice that along those points there were things that happened and different elements to survive. So the earth is one of the it nourishes, right? That's where stuff grows from. That's the nurturing aspect. From the earth grows wood, right? Or actually water feeds the wood. And it's kind of interesting too when you look at it. The earth. So I start at earth maybe for, I don't know if it's happenstance or not. From a Chinese perspective, they look at a compass, and this might seem odd, but their compass, if you look at their compass faces which way? It's different than, it's really only my choice. Our compass goes north. Their compass goes to the south. So as you look at a person, this is the proper relationship of man to heaven and earth. And this gives you the direction. So you'll see the directions of the compass are listed on here. That's one of the reasons. The earth, you're standing on the earth. That is the center of the axis. That is where we start. Actually, if you look at a Chinese coin, they're round, but they have a square offset. There's some different philosophical reasons for that, possibly. Some do the chest as being a square and the head is round. So even their coinage kind of reflected some of these beliefs at the time. But the east, right? So if you're facing south, the east is associated with new growth, right? What is it? What is the element associated with growth? So you got 5 elements. So you got, and if you look at the natural engendering circus, we'll start with the yin. The yin channels are always start with wood. So I always, and this will help you with your antique points, because each of the points, these are all different elements. Each of the channels has different elements, but along the yin surfaces, they all start out with wood. Wood feeds what?
Fire.
Wood feeds fire. Fire feeds what?
Water.
Earth.
Okay.
You get charred, right? You get ashes, which are helpful to the earth. Earth, what do you find in the earth?
Metal.
Metal. If you dig far enough for metal, you run into what?
Water.
Water. And then water starts the cycle over again. So, yin, surfaces, wood,
Fire.
Earth,
Metal. Water.
water. Same in the foot. The yin surface of the foot. On the yang surfaces, I visualize, to remember this, I visualize holding on to a wooden sword with a metal gauntlet on my hand. That helps me remember that the yin surface starts with wood, but the yang surface starts with metal. So it's the same order, you just start at a different spot. So metal feeds
Feeds water. Okay.
Water feeds
Wood.
Wood feeds
Fire.
Fire feeds
Earth.
So there's a key there, right? So to remember those antique points, if you remember this basic thing, you won't have to remember them as long as you know the numbering system. These are usually the He points. These are the spring or the river points. These are significant. The first 3 points are almost always 1, 2, 3. Then these are the ones that are hard to remember. You got to remember which are the ones at the wrist and the elbow or the ankle and the knee, and you remember that, especially if you remember that. And that whole metal thing, metal's purification. Metal is, and you'll see that too, metal leads to water. I guess the easiest way for me to remember that metal leads to water, what happens when you have a cold sword or a cold piece of metal and you put it out in the hot, what happens to it?
Condensation?
Water condenses on it, right? So that kind of helps me to remember that. But it's purifying. Transformation is one of the things, but it's more purification, introspective. So that whole concept, each of the organs is related to one of those elements, and actually they're paired. So let's see if you, just without knowing it, so we know the elements, right? So we got, we'll start with wood. So, right, which of the elements is associated with the lung and the large intestine? Those are paired. They share the same element. Which of the 5 elements do you think is associated with the lung and large intestine?
Fire?
You get fire. If you've had some good spicy hot food, you might think fire.
I'm a fire-breathing dragon.
Earth.
I think that would be the stomach, right?
That is correct. Stomach and spleen are the paired. They are the earth. They're the center of the axis. So earth is out.
Metal.
Metal?
Why do you say metal?
I just think, so metal is purifying, right?
Yes.
And so with air,
To purify the air. Very good. Yeah, excellent. And it does. It's associated with sounds. There's actually this one talks about it too. I haven't seen this too many, but you'll see they have names. Maybe you can help me with this. They have the 5 notes. They have them listed out. Zhao, Zheng, Gong, Shang, and Yu. I don't know, my inflections are probably off on those, but there are, I can get those for you. I have a book called Acutone by John Perog, where he actually lists what those tones are, but they used to have bells. You think of the metal associated timbre notes, sound, that makes a little bit more sense. It is also considered, the lung is considered the delicate organ. And again, you wouldn't think of metal as necessarily being delicate because, that's what you use for sword. That's how you hack up a body, right? But metal can also be very frail. And you've seen bells crack when you have the Liberty Bell, right? So metal can be frail as well. So lung, large intestine, stomach, and spleen, we talked about that. Stomach and spleen are, again, these are paired organs. They're meaning their function is similar, or it's kind of interactive. Between each of these, the reason I'm going over these in their paired sequence is that one of the next things you're going to need to know, besides just the pathway and how many points are on that. So how many were on the lung?
20? No, 11.
Lung is 11. All right, so lung goes down, there's 11. 9 is a big one. Actually, 10, this is kind of weird because there's some points like, and 7 is a big one on there, great reversal, Li Chu, reversal of direction. It's right near the radial styloid. So lung comes down and then sends this one little rivet out and then goes back down. So not only knowing how many, so we get 11 on there. How many on the large intestine? Starts at the index finger. 20, opposite nose. Stomach. Comes down the face, comes down through the nipple line, the mammillary line, comes over, down the leg, cross through the tibialis anterior, the fat part, 1 finger breadth out, goes to the second toe. How many?
45.
45. Actually, 42 is a big one. Rushing Chong, I think, or Great Rush. It's where dorsalis pedis pulse is. 41 is right at the ankle. 42 is right over between the cuneiforms and second. And then we got spleen. How many are spleen? Spleen we talked about comes up the inside of the knee.
It comes up 21.
21, and where's 21 end? So it comes
Ends
up
about
near
here.
spleen, but ends up, this is the great low vessel. Low vessels are those communication between the channels, and I'm still not 100% sure what the great low is, how that relates, but low channels are the points between them that kind of communicate energy back and forth. So again, you can use each of these meridians to drain energy or supplement another meridian that's paired with it. So that's a source host, guest host, using to use the low vessel of one channel and the source point of another. That's a valid treatment technique that we'll kind of get into. So this whole concept, before I get too far off of this, you should know the engendering cycle. We just talked about that. That's the engendering, and they talk, I've seen this different. This is a different book. This is an older one, Chinese Acupuncture and Moxibustion. Follows the same pattern. Weissman does. Actually, Weissman probably used this as a base, but they've done some different things. But it talks about interacting and counteracting, which are some different concepts. That Alberta clip, if you look at that, they got kind of a real interesting way. Instead of having all these on the outside, they've used the inside to kind of form a triangle back and forth, which makes maybe a little bit more sense. But the concept of yin and yang, or overbalance, in the natural flow of things, this is a natural, I think of a bolus kind of going through. They kind of, each one nourishes the other, naturally leads into it. There's actually a circadian cycle that you can put all of these on too. So the lung starts out the cycle from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. From 5 to 7, what organ do you think takes over? We talked about the first of the great cycles. So lung starts it out. What's the next one? Large intestine. From 7 to 9. When do you usually go to the bathroom first thing, right? And it's kind of interesting looking at the cycles. That's typically when they woke up. So 3 to 5 is lung, large intestine, stomach is the next, spleen, and then next one's going to be heart, because you get right to noon, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about some of those later.